Well, hello everyone. My name is Michael Reeves. I am a technical director for Bitdefender. I'll give you a little bit of my history because what we're going to talk about today is what I call how to build a championship security architecture. I'm a big sports guy, so we're going to talk sports. I hope that's okay with everyone because I think sports and security go hand in hand with each other. So hopefully I'll be able to explain that for you. But my history for most of my career before coming to Bitdefender was in the Fortune 50s. So I worked with very large-scale security operations from American Express. You may know of them. DHL was one of my clients, and also Honeywell. So I'm very familiar with large-scale security operations. And what I found is the challenges that they were facing probably 20 years ago based upon criminal organizations that Lisa talked about that were highly focused in the, I would say, the Fortune 50 financials, insurance, governments across the globe. They pointed their malicious activity at those organizations. But then when automation came to the industry that we get to enjoy today, automation came to their criminal organizations as well. And now they can reach out and touch any organization anywhere in the world, regardless of size. If you're connected to the internet, they can reach out and touch you in a very automated way. So therein lies their business model. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to build an architecture, a security architecture, and hopefully I can simplify this for you. I think a lot of the security industry makes things very complicated for you. So I'm going to try to simplify it, boil it down, and we'll have some fun this afternoon. I know I'm between you and lunch, I believe, so I'll keep manage my game clock pretty well. So let's talk a little bit about, I worked for Bitdefender. I came to Bitdefender about 3.5 years ago. I didn't know anything about Bitdefender when I came to the organization, other than a couple of people that I used to work with went there and said, hey, Mike, you need to check out this company. And so I delved into their technology and really found a gold mine, in my opinion, from a security perspective, especially for small, medium businesses. I probably wouldn't sell Bitdefender into this Fortune 50, and if you want to know why, come talk to me at our booth. But if you're a small, medium business or a mid-size organization, I think Bitdefender has a lot to offer. We're basically an AI-driven company. We've been doing next-gen machine learning before next-gen was even a marketing term. So we started machine learning back in 2008. We rolled that out into production. We actually have AI built into our platform, and I'll show you that when we get to that part. So we actually have it in production running that helps your organization deal with security incidents in a human-readable language where we can demystify some of the stuff that you're seeing from an incident perspective and help your teams respond to incidents in a more effective way. The other thing that we're known for is, Lisa talked about these ransomware groups. And the challenges with ransomware, and what I find very sad, is that most organizations just pay the ransom. Bitdefender, if you go to our website, if you or you know someone who has been hit with ransomware, please go to the Bitdefender website. We decrypt, or we reverse engineer a lot of ransomware, and we've got 32 decryptors that are available freely, and we've saved the world about a couple of billion pounds over the years by them using these ransomware decryptors. So let's talk about architecture. I'm a big believer in architecture. I find most security organizations are challenged because they create architectures that are very, very difficult to manage. So I boil a championship security architecture down to 3 main components. The first one is what I call automation or automated security controls. The first piece of your architecture should involve automation. And what you want in this layer of your architecture is really good efficacy. In other words, your architecture should be able to detect and respond to most incidents in an automated way. So what's really important in this part is the number of security controls that you have activated in your security architecture, the depth of those security controls, so they should not just detect anomalous behavior, but it should be able to respond to that anomalous behavior. And what that does is that takes the pressure off of your human resources and allows your human resources to focus their activities in certain critical areas that we'll talk about. So this is the first layer. I liken this to the sports analogy. So I'm a big team sports guy, and I know I'm in football country here. So if you think about a team on the pitch, this is basically your defensive side of the ball. So, and I'll ask you a question for those of you sports folks out there. What is really important about your defense, if you were building a team and you were the coach and you were the manager, you were the owner, and I said, hey, you have the option to put 37 or 40 guys or ladies on the pitch on your defense, or you can put 11 people on the pitch for your defense. Without knowing anything about those individuals, which one would you choose if you could? And I would argue every single time, and I've never had anybody argue with me about this, I'd put 40 people on the field. Why? Because it's very difficult for an offense to maneuver around 40 individuals than it is for them to maneuver around 11 individuals. The same thing is true in your security architecture. These are your security controls. So the ability to have multiple security controls active is critically important to your security architecture. So when you're thinking about what you have in your current architecture, think about and ask the question, how many security controls do I have available to me in the automation layer? So that's the first area. The second area of security, if something bypasses your automation, you get to what I call the human area of security, and this is what the industry calls detection and response. Now, the industry, I think, has done us a disservice in operations where we convolute this, and we basically present this layer of the architecture in combination with the automation protection. So we talk about, hey, does your EDR tool or does your XDR tool, can it automatically respond to various events? Whenever you mention the word automatic, that is your defensive side of the ball. But we present this area, which is really critically a human aspect of your architecture. This is the manual piece of your architecture. This involves people resources. And what people really require in this particular case, because your automation layer has been bypassed, your people need to do two things. Number one, they need really good visibility. So the ability to see an incident from multiple angles, having multiple telemetry feeds into that particular visibility allows them very quickly to determine whether an incident is benign, or in other words, it's a false positive. And then, or if that incident is malicious, be able to very quickly do the second piece of the architecture, which is to respond. Whether that response is taking a host off the network, whether that response is killing an email, disabling a user account, whatever that response may be, time is of the essence because now you're at a very slow piece of your architecture. So I liken this to the offensive side of the pitch. This gets a lot of the glory nowadays, and we talk a lot about it in the industry, but this is the second piece of the architecture that's really at top of mind nowadays. But I want to suggest to you there is a third area of your architecture. Just like in a sports team, there is a third part of the game. So if I ask you, you've got your offensive side of the ball, you've got your defensive side of the ball, what is the piece that is missing? And on the football pitch, that's what? Your midfield. Okay, now I want to ask you folks that know about football or about sports, what happens if your sports team has a terrible midfield? In other words, you're turning the ball over every time. You move from defense to offense or offense to defense, and you're always turning the ball over. You're not going to win many games, okay? But what's interesting is we don't show a lot of highlights of that. Like if you watch the highlights of a game, we're always showing great saves. We're always showing great goals. But we don't talk about the midfield. And guess what? There's a piece of the security architecture that we don't talk about at all. And when I moved from the Fortune 50 down into the small, medium business, this is our Achilles heel. This is where we do not do well as an industry. And what I would suggest to you is think about how you can operationalize this piece of your architecture and really do well to secure this piece. And that is what I call prevention or hardening. We do not do this well as an industry. This is where you analyze your risk in your environment from a people resource, from an object base or a data resource, a network resource, analyze vulnerabilities in my environment, ways that criminal organizations can get into my business, and then systematically over time, reduce the risk. That is what the largest organizations do pretty well, actually. And when I was consulting with them, they would have hundreds of people. They would spend millions of dollars to do just this. So in other words, how can someone get into my organization, and how do I prevent that from happening? So we're going to talk about each one of these three areas. I also like in this hardening piece, I want to ask you, for those of you that drove cars here today, what was the first thing that you did before you came into this building? I would suggest to you, you harden your vehicle. You closed your doors, you probably locked your doors. Why do we do that? Because we want to make it difficult for somebody to get into our vehicle, especially if I have something valuable in there. We don't do that from a business perspective. We're not good at this. And what I would suggest to you is think about ways that you can actually improve this area of your architecture. Our industry does pretty well with automated security controls. We do pretty well with detection and response. But if you think about this from an architectural perspective, it would be like going and looking at the parking lot outside, if I'm a criminal, go outside the stadium here, look at all your cars, and all I see is all your car doors wide open, but you have pretty good alarm systems on that car. And then you might have a police officer or somebody roaming around the parking lot looking if there's a criminal there. That's basically the situation that we face in the small, medium businesses today. So I'm going to teach you how to do all three of these things, and we'll talk a little bit about Bitdefender, and then we'll close up. So let's talk about hardening. Again, I said most organizations now do not do this well. And I want you to think about your own organization, especially if you're in IT. Do we talk about analyzing risk very much in my organization? Now, we do this financially. We do this in other areas of the business. But from an IT perspective, what I've found all over the globe, we don't do this well. So let's talk about why this is important. Did you know that every single one of your environments has an account in your environment, probably right now if you haven't remediated this, that is an anonymous account that has no password? So if I'm a criminal, I can come in to your organization, bypass all of your network security controls, and I can do reconnaissance in your organization with an account that has no password, And I can do that for months and years. That is a vulnerability. So what our solution does is we cover 1,800 different areas of vulnerabilities. We do it in an automated way. And we present those vulnerabilities to you across your users, across your applications, across your operating systems, your networking configurations. And we tell you what those vulnerabilities are. And then we tell you how to remediate those. And we classify them high, medium, and low, so that you can focus your efforts to systematically and operationalize, really closing the doors to your business to keep these criminals out. We give you dashboards. We give you ways to prioritize your work and really help you to operationalize this. Let's talk about automation. Automation, I talked about, is your defense. The more defensive folks that you have on the pitch, the better your security architecture, period of end of story. And where Bitdefender shines in this particular area is that we have more security controls than anybody else. And if you look across different third-party tests, we're always winning, and there's a reason why. We just have more people on the pitch. We have about 37 active security controls in various areas, including HIDs and HIPs. We look at wireless connections. So if your users are roaming, we look at wireless connectivity. And if that is a malicious network or an unsecured network, we institute other security controls automatically to be able to defend that particular asset against various attacks. So we do better than everyone else in this on third-party tests, and there's no secret why. Most tests actually disable some of our security controls, and we still win. We even pre-execute. Nothing executes in the environment without running through our machine learning engine. So we stop it at the pre-execution phase. If you want to talk a little bit more about that, come see me at the booth, and we can dive as deep as you want into our security controls. But where I want to focus a little bit is in the detection response phase. I talked about this as our human area of our security. What humans need is correlated visibility across multiple threat vectors, whether it is email, users, assets, files moving around the network. You want to have correlated visibility and correlated responsive capabilities to where I can see what's happening, determine what is, if this is malicious or benign, and then take action in seconds. So all you have to do is click a button on the right-hand side, and I can disable a user. I can kill email directly out of Office 365. I can take a host off the network with the click of a button. If it's benign, I can whitelist it with the click of a button. This is AI that's generated in our platform. So Bitdefender does not require you to be a security expert to be able to respond to incidents. We will tell you in plain English what is actually happening across your network. That's the paragraph on the left. We will tell you all of the assets involved in that particular threat. And then over on the right-hand side, Bitdefender AI will basically guide responsive actions where all you have to do is click a button, click save, and we'll take those actions on your behalf. This is already in production. It's been in production for about a year. I know this particular industry, the EDR industry, the XDR industry is starting to get into AI. Bitdefender is already there. What happens if you don't want to do this at all? So you want to outsource this. We also have MDR. So we have managed detection and response. It's a completely integrated solution. We don't require any agents to be deployed in your environment for this particular solution. And we have 2 operations centers. One's based in the US, one's based over here in Europe. They are both 24/7 by 365. And this is how difficult it is to onboard our service if you're a customer. You're going to go into your licensing of our product. You're going to click Manage Detection and Response. You're going to click Save. And in milliseconds, you are onboarded onto our SOC. Again, there's nothing to deploy. It's an automated onboarding. And then what you'll get is you'll get an email within a couple of minutes that says, welcome to MDR, and we want you to do two things. We want you to put who we call if we respond to one of your incidents in your environment. Number two, we want you to tell us what actions we are not allowed to take as an organization to defend your environment. So you tell us which ones we can take, which ones we can't. It takes about 5 minutes to set up. I do this every single day, all day, with customers all over the world. It's that simple. Now let's talk about mobile, and then I'll close up. So, this is one of the new attack vectors. It's not new, but people don't think about it. I've been doing mobile for about 15 years. I used to hack into people's phones. That's what I did. And I will tell you, it is so easy to do. And once I have your phone, I have all access to your phone. I used to hack into phones at a conference like this about 15 years ago. And then I would start showing your passwords up on the stage. It would, of course, be obfuscated. But you see your banking password. You see your, back then it was Facebook and Instagram and everything else. It would be on the screen, and then I can make calls on your phone. I can text people. I can route any phone anywhere in the globe to any website. And it was very, very simple. And I want you to think about your business and how much time you spend on your phone doing business versus how much time you're spending on that doing business. And I would suffice to say, especially those that have access to critical data, you're using your phone more than you're using that. So it's time for us to start thinking about securing these devices. And why is that? Because we need these two pieces. Many of you probably already have that third piece. We call that MDM or MAM, is the piece on the left, the detection response, the human area. But what we do not have is automated security on this device, and we don't have hardening for this particular device. So if you're talking about iOS, or you're talking about Apple, you're talking about Androids, you're talking about Chromebooks, you're talking about mobile security. So why is this important? Because this device is insecure. I don't care what Apple or Google says, this device is very, very insecure. Again, milliseconds, and I have your device. And once I have your device, I own your device. So what we offer in this area is we look at all the applications that are running on this device. We look at web protection of this device. Think about phishing and phishing emails that come to this device. We automatically protect the networks that this is associated with, and we can invoke a VPN. And then we also harden this device against security attacks. So why Bitdefender? We are the only vendor in the small, medium business space that offers all three areas of this architecture in one platform that's completely integrated. So thank you very much. If you have any next steps, please contact your Cascade representative. Thank you.